Just starting. And now we're broadcasting.
All right. Hi, you're watching the raw, unedited version of the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you wish to listen to our final version, please go to smlr.us. Thank you.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the Beaver.
And this is episode 255.
The Reaper cometh.
That's right.
I'm Mary Tomich.
Tony Bemis.
And Tom Lawrence.
Yes, Phil could not be with us today. He's feeling a little ill.
He's got some sinus issues, he said. So
Yeah.
Well, he just flew back from somewhere and
that's why.
And his arms are tight now.
His arms are tired. He couldn't podcast today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he picked up whatever allergen was there and he now brought it to Michigan with him.
That's right. We're soldiering on without Phil. So,
yeah.
So hope you feel well soon, Phil, if you listen to this. All right. So here we are. And what else?
What's new, Tony?
Actually,
yeah, Tony, we're all looking at you.
There's a sound new. Can you turn off the air conditioning?
It's off.
The heater?
It's off.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, it must be the fridge.
The fridge is on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't want to turn that thing off.
I know. If I unplug it, I will forget to plug it in and we'll have an incident.
Right.
All right. Well,
yeah, so
we don't want that.
So Mary, what's going on?
Well, I was pressed into service a few days ago by my neighbor to assist them in moving some files off their laptop, or actually was off an old hard drive that they had that I had pulled out of their old laptop for them.
Yeah.
And they had tried to do it. You know, I have one of those, excuse me, those external connectors where you can connect a SATA drive or whatever and then USB into a laptop. So I helped them, but the problem is trying to do it in Windows, and it was a Windows system. I mean, there was a whole Windows system on the hard drive, so I think Windows was getting confused. So I happened to have my Linux laptop with me, which the one you see right here. So I said, hey, we're going to use Linux to solve this problem. And so sure enough, I was able to easily move things from that drive to a backup USB drive that they had. So that was one little thing I did. I just bought an HP scanner, a nice flatbed scanner. I think it's the model 3250, if I'm thinking correctly, or 350, whatever it is. Anyway, I'm happy to say that once I downloaded and installed the HP, the little utility that they have in the repositories, the Ubuntu repositories, I was able to get that scanner up and running with Xane, the Xane, I believe is pronounced.
Yeah.
And run some test scans, and it looks great. So I'm pretty excited about that. I wanted to get a nice quality flatbed scanner rather than those ones that kind of double as a scanner and printer and that type of thing. So, so this thing is just purely for scanning. Probably, I suspect if I had some software, I could probably do some OCR conversion with it. So, but anyway, as far as technology goes, those are the two big things that I did in the last couple of weeks.
All right.
I'm always surprised how well scanners work in Linux. Like, I think they actually work better than they do in Windows. But then, which we solved a problem. Now we don't really use scanners anymore.
Right.
Well, I do for different, you know, for different
for
things that I make as part of some props and things, and I need to adjust them. But I tell you what, Tom, you know, as far as hardware equipment, I've always relied on HP printers and HP scanners as far as my Linux laptop or my Linux system goes, because once you get that little utility and they just work. I mean, they work great.
Yeah.
As far as what I need them for.
I like all the commercial HP printers.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like the consumer ones. I'm going to do a video about them, like how to fix one. We're just going to beat it with a hammer. It's going to be a really short video.
Well, here's my question: how can you tell if you've got a consumer versus a commercial grade? Is it price?
Price,
model number,
laser, any of their inkjet ones that are like Wi-Fi connected. Their Wi-Fi software is some form of awful hell.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you say that, because in my household we've got a HP Color LaserJet, and it had Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi capability. Well, what I ended up doing is hauling it over where the router is, and I've got it cabled in, and so now it's completely reliable. The Wi-Fi, sometimes it would work, and sometimes it would like go to sleep and then not wake up. I'd have to go in there, fiddle with the printer, and I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah, mine does that now, and I just have given up on it.
Mhm.
You know, there's no physical connection, Ethernet. It has to be wireless. So I just use it as a scanner now, or actually a copier, and then no, I can't even use it as a copier now because the inkjet
He suddenly
Yeah.
realized.
crapped out, and yeah,
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, we use HP
That's-
printers. We use their commercial laser ones. We the printer up front in my office here is from 1997, I think.
oh yeah,
Works great, amazing.
yeah.
Oh,
Mine's
yeah.
about that vintage too. It's a HP LaserJet
2000 or 3000,
1100.
1100. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I've
same
got
era.
a 2300, and actually I just ordered a fuser kit for it because
Oh,
you know
yeah.
how when laser printers are kind of going out, you can kind of see this ghost printing.
Mhm.
I've got that problem, and this printer's about almost 14 years old.
And they're serviceable. You can't get, if you bought a brand new one today and wanted a laser fuser tomorrow, you wouldn't be able to find it. They don't exist. They don't make them serviceable anymore. So
Mhm.
Really?
so you can, that's one of the things, you can keep finding parts for the old ones, but the new ones, they a lot of the stuff's not serviceable like it used to be.
That's really
Yeah.
that's
They
kinda
just want you to throw it
terrible,
away,
I guess.
even the ones you pay like $800 for.
Really.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyways,
yeah. So
we can go down a rabbit hole of printers.
yeah, I
for-
guess we could.
but
We'll-
I'll avoid it.
yeah. So anyway, but that's so it'll be fun. I'll probably have another little story to tell once I start trying to replace the fuser. So.
Yeah, just be careful you turn it off and it's cold, because the fuser is the hot part.
Yep.
Mhm.
You will burn your fingers.
I had a feeling just the word, it's fusing the toner to the paper.
Yes.
So I kind of thought that, but that's a good point.
You don't want to
Tony,
fuse your
Yeah.
'cause
fingers
it's-
to it.
I think it's on right now, but I'll unplug it overnight and that should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
I've done that just trying to pull a jam out. I've stuck my finger up too far in there and melted the end of my finger, because it'll
It's
burn
really hot.
your fingertips right off.
I've seen paper singed because it got stuck
Yep.
by the
Oh
fuser.
yeah.
Yep, that'll happen.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So what did you guys do? Anyone?
I didn't do much.
Oh.
I don't know, working on my little website a little bit more, but not
Mhm.
much.
Well,
Yeah,
that's important.
family Halloween.
Yeah.
We did. We were supposed to do 4 trick-or-treating this weekend, 4 of them, and we ended up just doing 1. It was just too
Kids
much.
were too tired.
Yeah. Well, no, mom and dad was too
Yes.
tired. Just getting them dressed and out the door, we missed 2 of them because they just didn't want to get dressed. We're like, it's time to go. Do you guys want to trick or treat? Oh yeah. And then they'll turn around and run off to play something else. It's like, where are you going? I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
4 and 7-year-olds. It's
They're
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and you have 3
yeah,
kids, so it's really in the Bemis household.
yeah.
my kids were ambitious yesterday, and then all of a sudden they ran out. They actually ran out of energy, which was really happy because Dad was out of energy. I just really pulled him out. So, I did a few things. I did a video on my
I'm
favorite.
surprised.
know.
You did a few things.
I did a few things. No, I did some more videos on Citrix Zen server, did entire top to bottom tutorials on everything from backing it up, the scripts you write to do your virtual machines and automation processes with them. Then I did a how to spec out a server video, which is fun because I bought a used server from ServerMonkey and gave them a shout out. They gave me a discount on server. I told them I mentioned in a YouTube video, and it was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people have questions about where do you get some of the hardware from, and they sell basically nice hardware for pretty good deals. So you
Mhm.
can get a reasonably good system, which is also why the kilowatt was out here, the little thing we had on the table.
Measures your
Yeah, measures
electrical
that.
consumption.
And now, and I'm not going to get up, but maybe we'll post it in the show notes. How many watts does our show use to broadcast?
Yeah. But you see, it
There's
was
some
90
useless trivia.
sitting- It was 90.
I think it was
when
like
we were
90
first
something
turning it on.
watts.
90
This is- and
watts?
it's including our laptops and our mixer board and things like that. But the other reason it was out is because we measured the wattage of all the things that we do.
Mhm.
Because one of the server considerations I talked about is when you build these, like, hey, I can find a really good deal on this old Dell server with 4 Xeon processors. By the way, it uses 600 watts and it feels like a blow dryer. So what you saved, you will spend in electricity costs. So
over the next 5 years. Yeah.
yeah. Matter of fact, we figured the payoff, one of those Dells would actually, even at Michigan, which has the lowest rates, we're among the lowest rates ever for commercial power here in Michigan.
Oh, really? I
And-
was not aware of that when I look at my electrical bill.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, commercial power. Okay.
Well, it's not for our commercial and residential is actually
Okay.
both really low. We're in the bottom tier of that for electrical
Oh.
costs. But even with that being said,
Mhm.
a few hundred watts will cost you an extra $150 a year annually. So that's, if that server runs just for a year, it would have paid for itself to spend more money. You'd have got a faster server with less wattage. Plus, the thing you can't really measure as easily is the BTUs it kicks out. So all that watts gets turned into heat, and it just heats up. I guess in winter it's okay because it'll actually saving your heating bill.
Yeah.
Like I turn my furnace off, I'll just max out my processors and let it kind of churn and blow hot air.
You guys ever speaking of thermostats and temperature, you ever program one of those Honeywell programmable thermostats, the 5.2 models? Oh my gosh, I'm online. I'd Googled it, and I've got the the top off the thing, so I can go in and press the buttons and move through it. I finally got it done, but it took me a little while to get it figured out, just because it's not as intuitive as you think. Plus, you only do it maybe once every couple of years, unless your battery dies or something something happens.
They're very much not intuitive. I hate programming those stupid things.
Yeah. So
I've actually, one thing I like is being able to delegate that to my employees who think they're up for the challenge. I'm like, good, program it, because I don't want to. Just
no, I agree. It's tough.
So other than that, let's see. I'm doing a couple more talks, this free BSD thing.
That's what I was going to mention that. Yeah. They're looking forward to it.
Me too. I should really put my slides together.
You're going to really appreciate, the venue because
Altair is awesome.
Yes. So you'll like it, and they're going to enjoy your time.
No, I'm excited. So that's coming up. I also have some other business talks I'm doing, besides the fact that we're all going to Microsoft. So there's that too. So I'm speaking in Goldman Sachs. I did some other speaking stuff that I haven't published on YouTube, but I will be. It's called a talk I do called Protecting the Digital You. And it's basically a series of practical security tips on things that you can do to protect yourself. And it's less about trying to buy a product and more about procedures you can follow to protect the digital representation of yourself online. So I put it together. The talk went really well with the business crowd that I had, so I got to turn it into a YouTube video. And I'll be probably talking in some other venues as well about the same thing, just practical things. And people don't realize how scary some of this stuff is. Not that I like to try and elicit fear in people to get them to change, but seriously, like, don't have a stupid password. I mean, speaking of which, this is something that happened to me that I have not sorted out because I don't have an answer for it. My Facebook account, I had 2 of them. And the reason I had 2 of them is because before Facebook allowed you to have a page, I set up one for my company. And this goes back forever ago when you had to do that before they had the page system that they had. And when Facebook had problems, I figured redundant accounts, and I kept it for a while, but then I closed it, I don't know, a year or 2 ago. So LastPass generated a high entropy 10 random character password for it. Someone guessed that password and logged in, and I don't know how. I had an alert that someone logged into that account. Now, here's the other puzzle. That account was set to dormant because I said disable this account. And when you disable the account, what Facebook does is disable it. But if you ever log back in, they automatically activate it again. So I checked everything. I can find no other logins. I can find no compromise on my LastPass. I went and switched passwords to everything. But it's just really weird. Someone guessed that password. Now, here's a weird thing. When you disable the account, it disables the 2-factor authentication except for the texting. So that's the 2-factor auth is on for my account, but it's not on for that account because when I disabled it, it turned it off.
So you're thinking that somebody guessed a password that is so randomized that
I don't have an answer. My only other guess as to how they got in, only complete random guess as to how they got in, is my Google Fi. When I switched over, I lost my Google phone number, and that because of how long ago I had that account. That's the number it was registered as my Google number. I don't have that number. But in the early days of Facebook, you used to have to have a cell phone number, and that's why I used that number to log in, because my other cell phone number was the original cell phone number associated with my current account. So it's like a big mystery to me how this all happened. My only guess is that
somebody got that number and then it automatically logged in.
Well, what happens is if they hit recovery, it'll send a text to that number. But I can't remove that number, as I have to put another number in. And I didn't have another number that would accept text messages.
More plausible than somebody spending the time to try to guess a 10-character highly randomized password.
Exactly. So it's kind of a puzzle.
Or high entropy, as you
High
said.
entropy. Yeah. So it is definitely a puzzle.
Mhm.
I don't have all the answers, but that's my best guess. I couldn't find any other
Yeah,
compromises.
And that's the most plausible one.
I lost some sleep over this though, because I spent a lot of time researching everything, looking down every note and every log
Yeah.
of every login of
Yeah.
everything. So
I can understand why.
I have a lot of paranoia because we have everything set up
Mhm.
with two-factor authentication, which is also why I just did that TOTP video on why that's the best authentication and why you should be using it. So
I haven't seen that video yet.
I actually show in there a bash script. So you can actually, from the
yay.
command line, generate the tokens, which is another
That's
clever way to do
convenient.
it. Yeah. There's actually
command line
integration, because there's integration
Yeah.
for TOTP for SSH as well, built in. There's a library you have to load, and I might do a video on that too. I haven't moved to that because I just use key authentication behind a VPN, but yeah, I thought maybe I'll add more.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So, wow. I guess we're caught up. Must be time for
Forward.
We want to hear from you. Call 734-258-7009 or email show@smlr.us with your feedback and questions.
Feedback.
Oh my gosh.
Feedback. Holy feedback we got this week.
Oh, we got so much
Thank you very
feedback.
much. You all talked to us.
Yeah.
Oh, I will admit,
They do love us.
we named the show, but remember it is episode 255, so we're actually broadcasting as the Reaper.
That's right.
Oh yeah, 255.
Broadcasting. I like it.
I tweeted
That's
that,
good.
so
That's good.
Yeah.
we can
I
still
like
edit
it.
the show. We'll add the word broadcasting as the Reaper.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a better title.
So, well, anyway, we did get quite a bit of feedback from quite a number of people.
Yes. Oh,
And
yeah.
all of it very constructive. Some of it complimentary. And actually a fair good portion of it was. I think I don't know how you guys want to handle it, if we want to just sort of talk about a few of them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about all
Sure.
of them.
Yeah, that's good. Well, yeah, actually, after I said that, I thought, well, we're going to talk about all of them. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I think one of the first ones we got was from, at least that I saw, was from Marcus from Germany, and he said he was listening to the Kaputski episode at the moment, and it was providing some feedback regarding the Microsoft stuff. And he said in the beginning he found it interesting, but then I think over time, he just got the impression that it was a couple of our episodes are just full of Microsoft content, which they kind of were, because, when you take a look at our fresh looks, we were at an event. And so we were talking, what we were trying to do was to bring the Linux portion of that Microsoft activity out. But
yeah, and we did cover a lot of that, so that's and we're gonna have a little bit more of that because we have the next episode we're releasing will be another Microsoft episode, but it's about Git, so it's fun.
about Git, yeah. So I think it'll be interesting, and also Marcus, one other thing he said too is he kind of skips over some of those Microsoft episodes. So we understand that some people it doesn't really.
One of the things I
not in
try
their
to do,
wheelhouse.
like for all the ones we did at MS Build or ones we did at Ignite, they're all hashtag MS Ignite, hashtag MS Build. So if you are not a fan of those episodes, not a problem. We understand. You're not required to listen to all of our episodes by any means. You can just skip ones that have a hashtag that contains Microsoft stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, he concludes by saying he says he's still here and he's checked the show notes and he's listening to the current episode. No Microsoft content. What a relief.
Yeah.
So anyway, Marcus, thanks for your feedback. We really appreciate it. I also, actually, this one was from Scott, a longtime listener of the show. And I think I had talked about the Fedora. Scott and my conversation about the Fedora installer, more specifically the partitioner, it goes back quite a ways. And I think I've made it known I'm no fan of that portion of the installer, and I think there are a lot of people that aren't fans of it. But anyway, Scott wanted to. He kind of had some feedback as far as the post-install boot failure, and actually, Scott, I was not on that same system because what I do is I wipe the system clean when I basically will take all whatever's on there before, I get rid of it, redo the whole partition or the whole drive specific for a distro. And I think that was
you're
NST.
not dual booting. So
yeah, I'm not trying to dual boot. This
was
was for NST, and I eventually did get it installed and did get it to boot, but I ended up not really looking at it much further. But anyway, So that's what, so yeah, he said, yeah, I had to say same old thing when Mary said the same old thing. But anyway, but that was it. So Scott, thanks. It was good hearing from you. And we appreciate you listening to the show.
Yeah.
So that was from Scott. And
We got an email
see.
from Chris about TrueNAS.
Yes, thank you.
TrueNAS X10.
Demystifying things for me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He was saying that how in SATA drives,
Oh, I saw that
that there's
conversation.
only one connection to a controller, but in SAS drives, there's actually two connections. So you can have that to go to two different controllers. And that's how there's two different motherboards with two different controllers. So if one goes down, the other can pick it up. And
Yes.
continue
I see.
on.
So it's purely a backup redundancy thing. There's no other reason.
Did he
for
say
it.
that it also will
that-
run in double speed or something?
Yeah, I
or-
believe there's a dual channel mode it can run in. So there's different operations within that, which that sent me down the rabbit hole of reading. So when I do my video on TrueNAS, I'm going to get in some of those technical details about why you want SAS and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and if you guys notice, and this is for a description for our listeners, the magical box is right there. I don't think it was on the table before.
Oh,
That's the TrueNAS box.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I saw it over there. I figured that's what it was.
Yes.
Okay.
It is on the table. I will
Out
be
of
doing a
camera
video.
view, unfortunately.
It's out of camera view. That thing's expensive.
Sitting right below the
Yeah.
It's
camera.
a
Actually.
$10,000 NAS box.
Mm.
That thing that's sitting
Yes.
It doesn't surprise me.
there, I
Yeah,
wouldn't pay
it's nice, though.
10,000.
I think without the hard drive, the base is
Values
something
in
like
the eye of the
6,000,
beholder.
and then
It's-
you add hard drives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it depends on how much you want to spend on time of either troubleshooting or
Mhm.
fixing it, So that's why there's redundant everything in it.
Everything.
And
Well,
that's what makes it expensive. You can set it out in lights out data center, and then it will run. And even if something dies and you have time to get over there and work on it, then
You're
So-
still up and running because it's
Right.
on the backup.
exactly.
So cool. All right. Well, moving on to our next one. We heard from Muriel, and she said, "I love your show," which is great. She's actually a computer science student and a Linux beginner. Although she said here, I believe Muriel is she. Although I recently installed Gentoo with a custom kernel. So one
Ooh.
might argue the status. I absolutely would argue the status. I wouldn't say you're a beginner at all. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty darn cool. So what's really appreciated about the podcast is it's a mix of day-to-day chit chat and technical stuff to keep engaged on the topic of Linux and tech news. So that's great. And so she said, I recently listened to the episode where you seemed bummed out about not getting any feedback. So I just wanted to tell you I have a very excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then really appreciated the Mr. Robot to
Yeah.
talk about
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Robot. So
Yeah, I got to
that-
do a new one for the next season.
I think did they start the next
yes,
season?
they did.
Okay.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Is it?
I
haven't
think it's better
started
than the second season. The second season was a little bit
I
disappointing.
didn't
to
even
me.
get through the second season, not because I didn't want to, but because I had some technical issues accessing it.
Ah,
So now it's almost as if I want to start from the beginning again and just push through. But,
Yeah.
So I'll figure out my problem. So moving on.
We have
Yeah.
an email from Andy Davis.
Okay.
I should have just said his first name. Anyway, he's saying that have we talked about the how Michigan lawmakers are discussing a proposal to ban municipal broadband? And we were talking a little bit amongst each other about it. We haven't talked about it on the show, but we're trying to get somebody that's from from Southeast Michigan to talk about it. He is on the board of one of the cities that has municipal broadband. And
Yep.
So
we'll see if we can find some time for him to get some opinions on it and join our show. He's local.
Mhm.
yeah, and actually, he was my Cisco instructor when I first took some Cisco classes, and then Phil had him as an instructor too.
Cool.
Yeah,
Huh. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. If we can get that arranged, that'd be great. Also, I talked to my friend Ruth, who's the geek, and she was telling me that she's got some new projects with Arduino that she's going to get rolling on. And
oh, cool.
I think it'd be kind of fun to talk to her a little bit sometime. So
Sure.
we'll try to get something set up. But we got more feedback. We got one from Xander, and he said, "Hi guys, this is the first time that I've been in touch with you for a while. Listen to Kaputski, and I wanted to drop you a line and let you know that I'm still listening and enjoying the show. Keep up the good work. So one of these days I will phone and leave a message. You guys continue to inspire. So thanks, Alex. Oh, it's actually Alex, but it's called, well, it's got Xander in there, so it's probably, I get it,
Yeah, yeah.
Alexander. I get
Yeah.
it. But anyway, thanks a lot, Alex. We appreciate the feedback. Let's see what else we got here that
We have one from Daniel. And actually, I think it came in, it said not spam, but I don't know. I don't remember reading it. And I thought it was spam because my thing marks spam. So if I see that in the title, I think I skipped past it, but I should have not.
It's not. Yeah. Yep.
Because I don't think
John.
any of us replied to that email either. So sorry. Sorry, John.
Not to worry though. But thanks. He said, thanks for the recognition on episode 253. I appreciate that very much. Appreciate the anonymity even more. So good.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just say your first name.
You didn't say his last name, right?
I said his last name.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Well, there's always the power of the edit.
Yeah.
except for the live feed.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, but
Don't we won't reveal your email address.
Thinking about maybe throwing some cash our way as far as making a pledge. We should maybe get some kind of T-shirt thing going. But anyway,
Yeah.
But that's great. So we appreciate people who listen to us on their commute. Hopefully, we'll continue with scintillating conversation, current tech news, and interesting reviews. So thanks a lot, John.
Yep.
And what else?
And speaking of donations, we got a donation from David. So thank you. And we'll make sure. I need to update our webpage with the latest donations of who's donated to our show.
Yep. And we also got something from Jeff, who is with he's with the semi bug folks. And he said that we're still getting our feet. We're talking about actually he appreciated the fresh looks view at PowerShell on Linux. And he said that they're still getting their feet wet with it. Looks like a great way for their more Windows familiar staff to step into Linux IT automation. Not sure if it'll Jeff says he's not sure if it'll woo him away from Ansible at home and Chef at work, but we'll see. So he said, great job as always. Thank you.
Yeah.
So at least there's somebody who appreciated it.
And it's another tool in the toolkit. And we talked about when we had Snover, that it's more the merrier.
You don't always want to have a hammer.
Yeah.
Well,
bash is a good hammer. You can bash things with it. So
I saw that as soon as you said bash, I thought, okay, there
as
we
soon as
go.
you said hammer,
I
I'm like
that.
bash.
Yes. All right. Oh, okay. And then let's see what else we have here.
Brad emailed into us. He's one of our listeners from a long time.
Oh yes, long time listener, Brad, friend of the show, Brad.
Yeah, and
hey,
he
Brad.
says the whole thing about the antivirus or the virus and the compiler thing was originated by Ken Thompson. He's one of the inventors of Unix, and he actually wrote it as a hack into the C compiler, and then he presented his work on a paper. So it wasn't like a hidden thing, I guess.
Yeah. He's right. I mean, a supply chain attack is not new. Been around for a while, but it's now becoming a vector that we're worried about again.
Yeah, right. And then and continue on with his email. He said that the whole like using typewriters instead of computers, apparently that was in the 70s.
No, they're recent.
Currently,
they're going back to it. Yeah, you can find that article. Type in KGB using typewriters. Maybe we'll.
I remember that. I remember that article. Well, maybe not that specific article. But I remember the idea.
I think it's in the Guardian.
The story about that.
Yeah, I think the Guardian's going to report on it. I mean, it's been a couple of years, but I'll have to look up the article. Maybe throw it in show notes. But
yeah. Oh, well, and when the EMP happens, and we don't have any electronics. Speaking of that, I was at Home Depot yesterday, and the lady kept announcing, "We're really sorry, but your Home Depot cards are not going to work."
Oh, really?
Yeah, and apparently it was system wide across all Home Depots. So I said, they're probably hacked.
Yeah, it's probably another hack that shut down the POS.
So you could use your regular credit card,
just not your Home Depot.
Just not your Home Depot card.
Oops.
And so I did, but it took a long time to complete it. So something was going on there.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
Data center problems.
Yeah, probably data center.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we got more feedback. We got some feedback from A_new_listener
Yes.
underscore.
We'll reveal their full name.
Yes.
It's A_new
Yeah.
listener.
So Anu.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
anyway, he I believe it's a he. So he said he finally caught up with all the episodes of 2017. Really appreciates, he wanted to send some impressions, feedback, some suggestions. And actually it was a very, very lengthy, a multi-paragraph email that had some excellent information and suggestions in it. I want to just mention that. He likes the fact we don't bloviate, which I always thought we did, but
I
hey,
had to
I'm
look
glad
up-
we don't.
I had to look up what bloviate is.
Oh, just to kind of, but anyway, it doesn't, we don't get philosophical, which is, that's good. Hey, who the heck needs philosophy? We don't
Right.
need no stinking philosophy.
Right.
And then the admin stuff, he appreciates some of the information because, well, for example, Tony, you do that. And
Mhm.
Tom, you own a business, and I'm a power user. I don't do any of that, but
But
I've
he
got
says-
some insights from.
And he says he likes your reviews, though. The
Yeah,
in-depth
yeah,
reviews.
I
So he really
appreciate that.
appreciates
I-
that.
Yeah, our
think
next
the-
episode, not our next episode, but we've got one that'll be coming up
Yeah.
in the next.
I
couple
think your
weeks.
history of project management, I mean, like you like do good, solid review notes way better than Tom does. So
Oh, yeah.
I got some
used to.
I got some feedback on a YouTube video. Like, you should really do the script, dude. Thank me later. That was a comment on a video I just posted.
That's pretty
I'm
good.
like, well, yeah, maybe I don't script it. Maybe I should.
But anyway, so he came. Yeah, he's got some really excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We
feedback
really
and
appreciate it.
suggestions. So we appreciate that. A new listener.
Mhm. And we will be throwing. We talked about for the show. I'll go ahead and just throw a link in the show notes to my YouTube channel. So if I say I posted videos, I don't need to list them all out. You can find them on my YouTube channel.
Just
Yeah,
subscribe to it, and I
They'll
think
be,
you'll automatically get a notification
Yeah.
that there's something new
Yeah.
been added.
but for new listeners, so we need to have links on our website so that they can easily
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah.
So,
So that's good. Good to add
We'll
that,
include that in. Yeah.
Tony. That was an excellent suggestion.
It was his suggestion. He's like, put it in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's right.
Yeah.
A new listener. That was an excellent
Yeah.
suggestion. Tony just said it, so I automatically
Oh.
attributed it to you. So that was my bad.
Sorry.
But anyway, so that's great. So
He
thank you
also
very much.
suggests autophonic.com. Did you look
Yes.
at that? It's actually pretty interesting. It's an audio cleanup utility that's web-based. Autophonic.com. And you upload your audio file to it. It goes through and cleans it up and then spits it back to you. But that might cover us for one show per the month. And then you have to start paying, I think it's $12 a month or something to pay
Well,
for it.
yeah.
And we've
they-
solved some of our problems already just by buying the new microphones, which
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
episode they're referring to, we didn't have these. This is only the second time we've used these.
Second time.
Well, besides at the conference, we took them
Oh.
with us to the
Oh,
conference,
okay.
but the
Yeah.
second
Sure,
time
sure.
we recorded with them here.
Yeah. You bring
So,
them to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
We switched all these. They're all nice. The same. They're all the same too, because we had one before and there was no so difference between that one and the other one. So now we have all the same mics, and it's easier to level things when everyone's on the same microphone as well.
And I'm going to make a commitment on behalf.
Uh-huh.
I sound so English, don't I? On behalf of all of us, we are going to make a concerted effort to update our About Us section.
That's a good idea.
Yes, and that was a new listener. Thank you again for that. That was something that was noted, and I think that would be good because Tom, then you could put some little links there
Yep.
to some stuff too. And
Yeah.
then Phil's employee. Well, he can say whatever he needs to say about whatever. And then of course you, Tony, and then me. So because
Well, Phil also, when he does personal projects, he posts them on his personal website. Phil,
yeah, and he can put a link to
Yep,
it.
and put a link to it. Exactly.
So we're going to make a effort, really good effort, best efforts.
Best efforts.
Best efforts.
Because Phil
ever.
has a GitHub too.
The
so.
best efforts ever to do this. So, and then I think we talked about Brad because I'm just came up to his info here. Didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Brad.
I think it's all the listener feedback.
Well, we have
we had a
one
couple
more.
more.
One more.
Yeah.
RETO, Reto.
Oh yeah.
We have
Yep.
2 emails from
Reto?
this person. Yeah. And one says that for in his G-Potter, when all the episodes line up next to each other, the
Mhm.
different episodes.
Yes.
Or the
He
different
called us
shows.
out. He said, yes, I thought it was kind of funny from a direct perspective. I mean, he got right to the point. He said, I'm I'm not expecting much, but the information you give for the show, and this is in the little description in the G-Pod or some of these downloads, he says it's basically nothing. So I think we need to probably step up our game. It's for
Yeah, we
freedom
used to have a
haters and
lot
freedom
more.
lovers. So
Well, we used to have a lot more show notes, and I think we need to get back to doing that a little bit. Make sure at least all the links that we talk about are in there, and some of the stuff.
We have pretty. I put a lot of links in.
Yeah.
Probably the
I think
last.
he's talking about
I think he's talking about the description.
the
He's
little
specifically
description.
talking about the Og Vorbis one not showing up, and I'm not sure why.
yeah.
Oh, really?
And Mike, one of my questions might be, and this is something we can get some listener feedback on: should we keep publishing the Og version? MP3, the license is gone now.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so it's
so how relevant is having that dual feed? Because he's saying, and I believe his comparison, because he attached pictures, is there's more notes in the MP3 than there are in there, and it's something about the way it's pulling the data.
I would say the problem with the feed now is we have people that are we have
That's true.
300, 400 people that are subscribed to the OG feed, and if we stop that,
That's true.
Yeah.
We've come too far.
Yeah, if
We can't
anybody who
stop.
subscribes to the OG feed wants to kind of let us know what you think, that'd be great too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But we'll look
promise
at,
we'll mention it on air.
well, the other thing, he sent us a couple of screenshots, and I'm wondering because one of the screenshots looks like just in the title of the post that we put on there, we don't put SMLR in there where other podcasts do. So when you're
Oh, maybe
looking
we
through
need to
just a
do
list
that.
of all your podcasts that have come in, that day or that
Yes.
week,
Yes.
it's hard to tell whether, which one is what, because there's like,
So we have to up our marketing.
there's one, Destination Linux, or what was that?
Oh, you know what?
That, that does do that. And then there's like 3 other ones that don't. So he couldn't really tell which one was our show, I guess.
Okay.
Or
And
he
Reynolds
probably
from
understands
Zurich.
that by this point.
He's
but
from Zurich, Switzerland,
yeah.
which is pretty cool. I know there's a lot of chocolate.
I'll look at that. I'll look at what data it's pulling.
Okay.
I'll play with Gpotter and see what data it's pulling and see, is it pulling from the archive.org description? And that's where I need to add more of the notes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the notes are all on our main page.
It's the post itself, the name to the post on our website. So like on our website, if you go to our website, you understand that it's just episode 254. Yeah. But if you're using a podcatcher, all you see is episode 254. It doesn't say this is a Sunday Morning Linux review unless you go into more of the details.
Okay. See, I'm also, because I use Pocket Cast, it does say that. It does have our information in there.
Oh, okay.
So I've always used that as my reference for it. Okay.
Yeah, but in Gpotter it doesn't give and then on
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think did we
even just as a cheat, I'm holding up my phone and showing even the show notes are in there. Because Pocket Cast, it is one of the problems with the whole ecosystem is it's not all of them pull consistently the same data, but we can fix it.
Yeah.
We will work to do better. So
all right. Yeah. So thank you everybody who took the time to write in and all the suggestions and everything. We I think I need to organize them into a to-do list. Shall I do that? Shall I take that on?
Sure. I'll do the doing. Just let me know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think sometimes just aggregating the information and then creating a list, it's kind of like a little project with that all managed.
Yes.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
So,
and then actually, he had sent one more email about Switzerland.
Oh. Ooh.
So in 219, we talked about
the Swiss voting.
Something about Switzerland. Is that it? Yeah. CH vote.
Yep. I have a weird memory for things. Don't ask me. I don't remember other things. I don't remember about
219 was like 40 episodes ago. I'm trying to remember back that far. Or no, 25. 30, no,
Tony
30.
math.
It's too early.
Tony
I
math.
don't know. I can't. It's too early to
say
math
quite
it.
a while ago.
It was quite a while ago. Yeah, 30 episodes. Even at 30, I mean, it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's 35 episodes.
All right. So, okay, we got that
that
part.
would be, that's more than 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I can barely remember what we talked about in the previous episode, let alone.
All right. I have a feeling you're going to talk more about what.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
all right.
So he asked how my Magic Mirror project was going, and it's in the same spot 6 months later.
Life has a habit of getting in the way, doesn't it?
Right.
All right.
Switzerland. One thing he says, Switzerland is like U.S. in conglomeration of the states
no,
here
it's not.
called Canton.
Oh yeah, the cantons. Yes, we have a city called Canton,
Right.
but they have like regional
Regional areas.
areas
Yeah.
called cantons,
Oh.
which I would say could be roughly like our states, but not. Our states are highly organized and have their own. They can tell the government to.
I've read a lot about Switzerland, talked to people there. And it's interesting. They have a very different structure, but we won't go down that rabbit hole.
No, we won't, because
we have to move
this
on
is
to
a Linux show.
Yeah, this is a Linux show.
All right. So what else, gents?
That's all I saw.
Awesome.
Okay.
Half hour
That was the
later.
longest listener feedback we have
Yeah.
ever had.
I know.
And it's awesome.
And we
Keep it
thank
coming.
you all
Keep
for
it
it.
coming though.
Yeah.
We thank you because this is
Yeah.
what helps us make the show better.
Yep. Exactly. So, all right. I guess we're going on to.
Distros.
Distro Fever, where we cover the latest hot distro releases and news.
So the latest hot distros.
Yes. Actually, I've got a couple things to say about them.
Ooh. All right.
First thing is one that caught my attention was Arch Labs, which is kind of interesting. I'll tell you, this project got its start as a result of the team really liking Bunsen Labs. Remember Bunsen Labs? I reviewed that a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
And it's a Debian based. It's kind of a minimalist distro, but it's based on Debian. Well, what these guys did is they took that whole concept and they applied it to Arch. They kind of took Arch and applied that concept to it. So now they've got Arch Labs, and I like it so much that I downloaded it. And in one of our upcoming episodes, I'm going to do a review of it. So.
Awesome.
Yep. So that was one that I liked. The other one I got kind of excited about was Cubes. Cubes is coming out with their second release candidate. And I am going to actually, we talked about Cubes at the at Semibug. And for those of you out there who are not familiar with that acronym, it's the Southeast Michigan BSD User Group. We talked about that, and I'm going to put together a review of that. So what I will probably do is also use that review here.
Yeah.
Share that. So that caught my eye. I took a look at. I actually downloaded Proxmox and kind of booted it up. And you know what's interesting about Proxmox is, first of all, it's a little outside my my realm of experience. But what was they use a variation of the GPL that handles servers and that kind of environment, virtual type of environment.
A GPL.
It is, but it's like the Aforo. Have you ever heard of it?
Are you talking about GPL like the license?
Yeah.
And there's an Aforo license?
Well, they have variations
it's
because they have
affordable?
ZFS. Yeah, it's affordable.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness. We apologize for him, everyone. No, just kidding. Tony, that was very funny. That was great.
Part of the reason though is they have ZFS mixed in with Debian. So there's my understanding there's a big licensing conflict issues with just dumping ZFS into the Linux kernel. So when you add ZFS, if I'm not mistaken, it adds on through the DKMS was that the kernel splice. That I'm lost for an acronym right now. But anyways, DKMS. It loads through that, and it so it's like an add-on, and so there's a lot of licensing conflicts.
Module.
Yeah.
Kernel module.
The kernel modules.
DKMS is the project that goes through and makes sure all your kernel modules are compiled to the current version of the kernel, right?
Right.
Because I've used that a lot with OpenBox.
Yeah.
Well,
so in short, though,
that
they have to have a modified license, as I understand it, because they want to use ZFS inside of there.
Well, see what the other thing about this, the Afero, not to get sidetracked on this because I know we're talking about distros, but just one thing I want to mention is that that particular license, the Afero GPL, was designed to close what they call, I guess, the application service provider loophole in the GPL, which lets ASPs use GPL code without distributing their changes back to the open source community. Now, this came from a post, and that may have changed since this post. This was from a few years ago. But anyway, so what they ended up doing is coming up with that. Now, since then, that may have changed, but I think that was the original intent of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. So it's.
That's
Anyway.
kind of like not anti-Linux, but that's kind of like against most of the
against the spirit of
GPL.
it's against the spirit of open source and sharing and community.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
So maybe that's
But
why I haven't heard
anyway.
of it much before.
Yeah. So, and that was all about Proxmox.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it for me as far as what caught my eye.
So the Ubuntu's all came out, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
The big Ubuntu parties.
1710.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I missed the Ubuntu parties.
Where was one?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Online.
Usually there's one around here somewhere.
I didn't see one, honestly.
Yeah.
I didn't see one either.
And I'm subscribed to like a
Craig
lot of
usually-
different things.
Well, he does one when the release happens at PenguCon.
Right.
So we stand in the bar and drink beer.
Yeah.
Speaking of that,
Talk
there's a
about
beer
Linux.
fest in Detroit.
Ooh,
800 different beers
Really?
at Eastern Market.
Ooh.
I didn't go. I was writing my review.
Oh. Anyway, so the different Ubuntu's that came out recently. So we have Kubuntu, of course.
Mhm.
There's Ubuntu Budgie.
The Budgie desktop.
Yeah, I didn't realize that actually came to fruition. I knew they were trying to get it as a
Oh yeah, it's
a-
been out for I think it's been out for couple. I want to say 2 years, at least a year.
yeah.
Yeah. So and I've taken a look at. I recall it being kind of minimalistic. And of course, whenever I take a look at a desktop, because I come from the from the KDE end of things as far as what I like to use, I always have to make sure I keep that in mind so that I don't say, "Oh, this had nothing in it." Well, some people like a minimalist approach. So, that's what I talk about when I looked at Arch Labs too. That's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
And then Ubuntu Studio came out. I remember using that a long time ago, like 5 years ago or something. And they, Tom, have you looked at that before? Ubuntu Studio? It's all about
briefly-
like creators, and
it's
creating.
got a lot of the tools, audio
media.
and video tools that you need that are pre-installed and
And
configured.
I looked at it, but because I really just use Audacity and
Mhm.
Kden Live, it just didn't.
Yeah.
I don't use any other tools. I guess if I was more of a mixer, like I was making music,
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense. Like it's got some awesome creator tools in there.
Mhm.
I don't make my own mixes.
Mixmaster Tom.
There are things I am not gifted with, and music is
And-
definitely one of those things I have no talent for.
Right. And that's the same issue with me, is that I don't. I would use two tools out of that, and then I'd have to load on everything else I normally use, or
Exactly.
just use the other distro
Yeah,
and load on
so-
the two tools I need.
That,
Makes
and
sense to do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
and because I'm using the KD Neon distro that Kden Live just works amazing with. So
Mhm.
Cool.
Okay.
And then Ubuntu and it dropped off the list. Isn't there a Mate version and
Oh, there probably is. There probably is. So all the Ubuntu fans
Ubuntu.
are gonna appreciate that.
yeah.
Interestingly enough, I believe just added, was it yesterday or today? Yesterday, I think it was, as LibreElec. They just had their distribution release, 8.2.
Just reading
Tony, was
that.
that something you used?
It was. I've used OpenElect, so
Oh,
I don't-
OpenElect,
I
okay.
think this is based on that.
Okay.
Where OpenElect, it was made for. Yeah, I think it's based on the same thing. It's or the other way, or OpenElect is based on LibreElect or something. I don't know what the
Mm-hmm.
the connection is there, but or the OpenElect I used was
Kodi.
it was Kodi and different things on for embedded platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just went up to their site. They say just enough OS for Kodi, just enough and nothing more.
that's all you need.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Because the rest of the stuff just bogs down the.
Yeah, why do you need a whole desktop when all you're doing is launching one application, and that
Yep.
one application has the GUI and everything you need built
Yeah.
into it?
Yeah, and it's called Krypton.
Oh,
All right.
all right.
So Tom, I think we've pretty much covered all of them. So
I think we got them all.
anything that caught your eye?
No, there's more
covered.
updates to PF Sense that came out. They're not listed here in Distro Watch, so
Okay.
but they've actually, with their major release that we talked about last show, they've
Mhm.
also had some minor updates to that.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Well,
All right. I guess we're going on to
Tech news and views.
the tech news.
tech news. Yes.
So did you hear the new exciting Linux thing?
Uh,
Super Tux Halloween's out.
Super Tux Halloween. No.
Super
Is it
Tux.
is it a game?
Yeah, it's a game. I mean, once
Is
in a
it-
while, I like to mix a game in here, even though
Now,
I really don't play
Super Tux,
mini
is that
games.
the sliding
Yeah.
snow one?
Yeah.
And he slides
Well,
through-
it's actually Super Tux kart racing.
Yeah, kart racing.
Oh, oh my God. That
So-
I used to love that. I still
Yeah.
do. I just don't use it.
Me too.
anymore.
I like load it once in a
I
while
used to
just to
get
play it
motion
and sing it.
sickness.
And I like to throw some games in here. And I've thought about doing a little bit more. Once in a while, I play Linux game for a minute.
Uh-huh.
So it's worth mentioning. There's actually, I'll give a shout out to him. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Linux gaming. And the guy's really cool that runs the channel.
Oh, that's good to
He,
know.
yeah, he demos nothing but Linux games, and of course, games. It doesn't necessarily have to be open source, but just games that are ported over to Linux as well, and how they run and setting them up. And
So I suppose just searching YouTube for Linux gaming will probably produce that.
the one and only person doing it, yeah. It's-
Okay.
I actually can't name two,
Okay.
but yeah, that's actually a big hang up a lot of people have with switching to Linux is the games. I have a few friends who go, I'd run Linux, but the games.
Mhm.
My gaming computer at home that my kids use is running Windows because the game they want to play, well, the games I should say, aren't available on Linux.
Mhm.
So more of them are becoming available, but we could. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but right now everyone hates NVIDIA. They apparently
Really?
screwed up some drivers recently.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
see that.
I skipped over it.
Okay.
Because it didn't affect me, but I know it's like the gaming community is in an uproar over something NVIDIA did.
Wow.
I'll have to look at their stock price, see if
Yeah.
it affected it.
There's not enough of us Linux people to affect the stock price of NVIDIA. We're just going to throw that out there.
Oh, okay.
Their stock price is much more influenced by other people buying them for Bitcoins.
Yeah, probably.
So, should we start off with that? What our show title is? The
Yes.
Reaper Cometh.
Yeah.
Yes, Tom, take it away.
Yeah. So, botnets, Mirai was a big deal, and
Mm-hmm.
this really affects not just security, but this is an open source issue as well because so many of these things are built on Linux, and so someone has wrote a way more enhanced version of the Mirai botnet. So Mirai botnet usually was generally using exploits to default passwords because no one changes a default password on their Netgear home router,
Yeah, and they're home routers or cameras or
and cameras
things like
or
that.
any
Web-
devices.
I do.
Well, you do, we do, probably a lot of our listeners do.
Yeah,
but the
you
rest of
should
the
be doing.
I mean, everyone should be, but most of the people are not. So the Reaper doesn't just use that; it goes and uses lots of exploits and vulnerabilities. So
Mhm.
even if you are someone who did that, but you didn't update the firmware, you have problems. And I didn't realize this, and this is where a lot of it's coming from. Some people are blanket calling it IoT devices, but it's a lot deeper than that. And among the devices being hacked are the Ubiquiti Unify Wi-Fi devices, which are commercial enterprise devices.
Really?
And they said almost all the big enterprise companies have infections
Whoa.
because when, in example for us, we did some of these site-to-site projects where we bridged internet from
Yeah.
one side of an island to another. Well, those same Air OS devices had a vulnerability from years ago. It's long since been patched. And it was like things like the Heartbleed and the Dirty Cow and some of those vulnerabilities because they're running on Linux kernels. It's exploiting those actively. So I think right now, last I heard, it's like over 2 million infected devices.
Yeah.
Mirai shut down a portion of the internet with only 100,000.
Yeah.
So in scale, we've got a bigger problem. But
Right.
there's some hope that the command and control servers can be shut down quickly enough that they may not be able to actually deploy this big botnet, which is sitting dormant, just waiting for a target. So I've been following some of the security researchers. They're actually, because it's so big, they're sharing all their honey token and honeypot information that they're gathering because no one company can see the whole picture because it's just that big.
Mhm.
So I was reading some of the latest research this morning on what's being done to try and figure out where it's going, what's happening, and will it break the internet? Will we all go back to just typing again with typewriters?
Typewriters. Yeah.
I still have a typewriter.
Well,
I'm
good, you may
prepared.
need it after this botnet attack. So it is the Reaper Cometh because it's, well, there's two different names for it, but the Reaper one is the one I like better because two different firms reported it independently. And the one that called it the Reaper, I'm going to go with them.
Yeah.
Well,
see, I
it's-
thought there was another name for it, but
It is. It's got
I
some.
can't remember what the other name was.
It's not rememberable. I won't lie.
Reaper
don't
has it really has a connotation. I mean, it conjures up.
Did we cover the Wi-Fi
Pictures.
crack? No, that happened the
Yeah.
Monday after our show.
Right.
The Wi-Fi, the crack attack.
Yeah. There was two. There was another security or encryption.
The encryption
Attack
from
also.
the Infinium chips.
Yeah.
That hit Monday, but
Mm.
it didn't have a cool name. like Crack Attack. Crack Attack has a name, has a logo, and it's a flaw found in-
T-shirts.
we right now could be spoofed. We don't know. Well, at least our phones can be, because I know my Linux is already updated and everything else.
We could be spoofed.
We could be spoofed. No, we're actually in here. We're using AES encryption, which only means we can be snooped, not spoofed. So, but if you're using TKIP encryption, you can be spoofed and snooped.
Oh, thank God. I'm starting to worry.
Yeah, make sure you make all those notes there. Anyways, they found the flaw in the way the WPA2, which we would before last, that what 2 weeks ago now, we said was secure.
Right.
And then we learned it's not, due to a way they implemented math wrong. And the Linux community and their ever diligent way of implementation means we were affected horribly by it because we followed the spec and implemented it. Microsoft managed to not be affected because they implemented the protocol wrong.
Right.
I
Yeah,
love it.
and
They're
that's
like,
what's
yeah, we
that-
read it and didn't do it that way.
right. So the problem was in the protocol itself.
Yes, not
Like they're saying this is the way you should do it, and this is, there's things you should not do it,
mhm.
and so Linux followed the protocol and said this is how it should be done, and Windows Mac did not follow the protocol, and so they're not affected as much.
They're safe by not following the RFC for WP2 inflation actually made them safer.
I remember hearing that
How
Mac
ironic.
was Mac, but I didn't remember hearing that Windows was.
I think Windows didn't follow it exactly. I'm not positive. You can call me out on it if I'm wrong. I know the iOS and the
Sounds
Mac
like a
was.
challenge.
Call Tom out. Either way, Microsoft also had it fixed really quick, and it got fixed
Mhm.
quick in the Linux community. Where it's not going to get fixed anytime soon is in all these crappy IoT devices. Please note, Reaper comment we had just a minute ago.
Mhm.
right.
It's not getting fixed in any of those because they generally don't get updates automatically pushed out to them. And of course, all these phones that just don't get updated. So they're all going to be
Oh, I
possibly
turn off
susceptible.
automatic updates because I don't like them, but I update several times a week.
Yeah.
So,
And as if we weren't busy enough doing these things that
Mhm.
Tony had brought up, the Infineon thing, where it
Mhm.
turns out they were not using good entropy. And so someone wrote a white
Mhm.
paper that says, yeah, these are affected. Now, this actually affects government facilities and a lot of secure ID facilities because the badges they produced were produced with the bad crypto. Therefore, the badges themselves can be
Oh.
spoofed. So
Mhm.
they had some physical world implications of, oops.
Yeah, and what it is when you're talking about spoofing it is that somebody can read the public key on it.
And derive the private key.
Right. So you can just like grab somebody's work badge.
Yeah.
Read the public key off of that and give it back to them, or sneak it back to them, whatever. And then you can create a whole nother badge.
excuse me,
that
comrade, I'd
has-
like to clean your badge for a moment.
Yes.
Exactly.
Here you go.
And then you could create a whole nother badge off of that. And as you walk in, they'll think you're this other person that should be.
Oh, really? So you can clone it.
Now,
yeah, completely. Yeah.
you can, but there is a couple caveats here. So the part of the research paper was, and it also has to do with compute time. You are able to take that and derive it by putting it in like an AWS or something, and it costs you about $1,000 of compute
Ooh.
time to do it.
Okay.
That seems a little bit pricey, but not really for someone who wants to fake a CIA badge. Like, we're just gonna throw it out there.
Oh,
If
true.
there's some high value target, $1,000
Yeah.
is trivial. So, and if they use a later encryption
Good
at a higher
point.
rate, it's about $40,000 per key to reverse engineer.
Okay.
Right. What was the name of that called? It was
This is
Return-
Infineon TPM chips.
yeah, but the name they gave it was
Oh.
Return of the Coppersmith.
Yeah, Return of the
So what is-
Coppersmith.
What is that?
That's in
Roca.
Roca.
Yeah, that's what they're calling
ROCA.
it.
Yeah, the Roca. So if you guys want to look that up, make sure you leave it in the show notes as well.
Right. And this Coppersmith attack, is something that not a lot of people remember it because it's so old.
I don't.
Like it's from a long time
It's
ago.
the thing we thought we solved.
Yeah. So,
And this relates to, and there's been a few other incidents now of more things, VPNs and all kinds of stuff that were keyed off of this that all used bad keys, and this actually hit a couple firewalls. The big iron
Mhm.
firewalls were in this list too. We'll leave that in the show notes. They weren't deriving proper keys. Hey,
not
you
all
know,
of them, right? It was
no, I think they said 10 different ones. So pretty much all the ones
Oh.
were like Fortinet and all the big companies were deriving their VPN keys off of some of
Mhm.
this technology, I believe. So
yeah. I mean, it's
yeah.
been well documented that that's the proper way to do it. and then just to find out that the hardware that is supposed to be even better than doing it in software.
And then they also followed
Has
some
issue.
of they also did it wrong too. So there's an article on that. I won't
Mm.
get too in depth, but it's a series of, well, you do one thing wrong, but then you do another thing wrong on top of the first thing you did wrong. And this is why I'm going to be talking about PFSense firewalls and why you should be using open source firewalls.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you can call them out if they're not doing it right and look at the code. So yeah, that's enough of that debacle. Who wants to talk about Bionic Beaver?
Bionic Beaver.
Not me.
Right. So what the next version of
The next version.
of Ubuntu has been, the name has been released.
The name has been released.
What you're saying was interesting about how Mark
So there's,
the-
I will leave a
his
link in the
blog
show notes to
post?
his specific blog
His
post.
Bahalog.
Bahalog blog. So I'll read a piece of it, but there's a lot of play on words in here, and it's leave the Bolshe Blith and Brecky BS aside, and let's appeal to those brave and bonzer as we shape the platform of which others will build. There's a lot of use of the letter B with adjectives, so it's fun to read, and so there's a reason why he's calling it Bionic Beaver, and he had some fun with words on it. So I thought it was kind of funny though.
yeah.
It sounds fun.
Yeah. Did you guys see the UnCAPTCHA posted over on GitHub? It's all about defeating Google CAPTCHA, which
No.
everyone thought was undefeatable. Matter of fact, this boasts a better accuracy than I have with Google CAPTCHA.
Oh
So
no.
now they have the
Really?
robots decoding the CAPTCHA faster than I can decode CAPTCHA. I think it's at like an 80-something% success rate, which I'm like, that rivals my success rate of when I get stuck
No.
on a CAPTCHA.
The Google CAPTCHA, is that the one where you get multiple pictures and you
Yeah.
have to, and then you think you're done, and they show you more pictures.
More pictures. And it's because you
Okay.
get something wrong. That's why it's showing you more. So you have the same problem I do. If you get all the pictures right the first time, I know.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, this is
I thought
now
it was
we
just,
have CAPTCHA so hard the humans can't figure it out, and it needs an AI system that can apply to it.
maybe
to figure
that's
it out.
hey, but maybe that's how you do it. If it figures it out right away, don't let it in. If
Don't
it
worry.
screws it
Yeah,
up, it's human.
If it confuses the humans,
Yeah. Yeah.
Clever.
clever. So I thought that was funny. KDE Plasma 5.8. Got some comments on that, Mary?
No.
No.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Maybe.
No, yes.
Right.
I was 5.8. I thought I was on 5.11.
588. Why? That's under title of their thing.
That's
They
interesting.
did a new video. Yeah, it's all the latest features and things.
Well, I'm actually on KDE Neon 5.11, which I thought mirrored.
I think the version numbers vary from the
Okay.
actual Plasma 588.
Well, I'll tell you this. I am on the latest version, so it must be 5.8, whatever it happens
Yeah.
to be. And I really like it. Of course, it's functioning within the KDE framework, which I also like. And I had a chance to use, the KDE activities. We've touched on KDE activities a little bit over the course of, the last few years, and the fact that it's an underused but kind of interesting feature of KDE. So what I did is that's another thing I did, is I went ahead and just tried to be very activity focused. So I set up my podcast activity. I had links that my newsfeed link, my my CD burning link or DVD, whatever it is, all that stuff that I use for my podcast stuff prep. All was there conveniently, and it works really great because it's all there. I have the activity set up so that any applications I have open on this other activity do not come over to my taskbar. So my taskbar is all clean. I can open up different stuff over there. So it's really nice. It allows me to focus because I am all over the place. I'm sad to admit on stuff. So
Fun note is they also to fix the stupid problem I had. They couldn't turn off things plugged into my video card on HDMI, and they solved that. So I have triple monitors. They can only turn off one monitor, not all of them. And now it turns off all the monitors when my computer just goes into hibernation or whatever.
So you might be going back to KDE?
Oh no, I've been on KDE.
Oh, okay.
I dealt with the problem by just shutting off my computer all the time. Now
Okay.
I don't worry about it. I turn off my monitors, not my computer. So
Sure.
like I'm doing something, I'm going to walk away. I turn off my monitors if I don't want them on, if I leave for a little while.
Mhm.
Now it powers them off for me. So I'm like,
Okay.
yay.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
As dumb of a problem as that is, it was a weird issue.
No, but yeah, exactly.
So
Cool.
and the FBI can't beat the math. Did you see this article that they have
No.
7,000 phones they can't decrypt? So
Mm.
while we have swung heavily towards encrypting all the things, now the FBI goes, this is really hurting that thing we do with investigations. So yeah, but their lack of public trust and the fact that they have done so much spying, government as a whole, and the Snowden releases, that the rampant abuse of power, everything went hardcore encryption, and now it's hampering investigations. And it's tragic when there's things and actual crimes need to be solved. But the other side is, of course, we just can't give them keys to the kingdom. You can't beat the math.
Right.
You can't create a key, because if the government's proved at least one other thing, not good at keeping secrets. Hashtag Snowden. So yeah, but it was an interesting article discussing the trades it made. So we, with all this, Apple and all these places went real heavy into encrypting. Even Google, the default options are encrypting the phone out of the box. So they're really, really hard to reverse engineer and get out there. So yeah, the FBI's got themselves in trouble on it.
Plasma 511 was released. So I'm not sure what 5.8, what that's all about. Maybe
it's a long-term support one.
I
guess.
was just going to say it's probably a long-term support.
I seen it on the top of their news and their announcements this morning. So
okay, because I did upgrade to 511 because we talked about vaults. The plasma vaults that are now available, so you can have little encrypted containers in your.
That was my mistake. I did not realize they had the. It is in the very bottom. It says LTS. So
yeah. So good. Well, at least we got that mystery solved.
Yeah.
Yes. Wish the rest of the world mysteries were that easy. All right. So what else, Tom? That's it?
That's my rundown of the news.
Okay. Nothing on the Amazon Key, but maybe that's not something we want to talk about. That'll probably take a whole show.
That would. We could just all rant about Amazon and letting them into your house.
Look
up Amazon Key.
They should
share your feedback. What you guys think?
Well, here's my thing. The way they do Uber and that type of thing, where you hire people, I think they should hire senior citizens to be package holders for people.
Package sitters.
Yeah. Well, anyway, okay, that wasn't a good idea. The one thing I have.
No, I didn't mean to say it like that. It's just
Tony,
interesting.
You can trash it.
The whole idea would be,
the more I talked about it, the less
be delivered to their
enamored
house,
I
right?
was of it.
Instead of, so if I senior citizen neighbor or something that's on that list, then they would hold it, and then I would just go over to their house.
If they're bedridden, it might be difficult, but so that's why it's not too good idea.
Yeah. So the whole thing they're trying to solve is packages sitting on your
Did I tell you my neighbor? My neighbor had a package stolen, but he has that Ring doorbell, the video doorbell.
Oh yeah.
Found the guy. The guy parks his van right in view of the thing. Guy runs up. You could just see who it was. My neighbor was on the local channel, Fox 2, I guess. Had the whole story. The guy turns himself in. It was great. Yeah. So anyway, I have one news item. PIA, you guys know who PIA is, right?
Yeah.
Private Internet Access, the VPN company. They just became a KDE patron. So
really?
Yeah, they just did. This was within the last couple of weeks, so that was kind of cool.
I thought you were talking about their CV vulnerability.
Yeah. So, but anyway, they for folks out listening in who may not be aware of it, PIA provides VPN services specializing in secure encrypted VPN tunnels. Some people are concerned because PIA is a U.S. based, so there's kind of that U.S. government angle that might present a problem. But other than that, PIA gets some pretty good grades as far as VPNs.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people that like them.
They also contributed to the audit of OpenVPN 2.4. So two different companies, and PA funded one of them, and I can't remember the other one was funded by like a crowdsourced funding, but they did a code audit, which was really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It came out good, by the way. They found flaws, but they were really minor. So VPN is still solid.
Right.
Good to hear. Yep. I've been thinking about using something like that. That'll probably ratchet up my suspicious activity, or somebody's. Hey, they probably track people who use VPNs constantly.
But they're just, while we're on the topic of PA VPN, there's a fix for it, but there's a CVE 2017-15882, which is PA.
I was just going to say
you can crash it. Someone found a way you can actually crash their Android app with too big of a download.
Oh,
and there's a code vulnerability in there, but I believe they've patched it
I've
already,
crashed my Android. I've crashed things with that.
This came out Friday. I'll throw it in the show notes. PA is still good. I did a review of PIA, and I have a video on my channel for how to set it up in pfSense, so you can do a whole house VPN if you want. So instead of loading it individually, it's a guide to VPNing all of your traffic on your network.
So,
Wow.
so there's all the different ransomwares out there. There's yet another one that's come out, and it's named Bad Rabbit.
Yes.
Bad Rabbit. So it's similar to NotPetya, where it uses the NSA, one of the NSA exploits, but this one uses Eternal Romance, is what it's called. And as long as you're keeping up with your Windows updates, it's actually been addressed in the in Windows updates from March. So make sure you install something like that. It's supposed to be.
Oh yeah, it's
that's what
well
I'm reading.
updated, but nobody updates. So
Right. But this one is actually where NotPetya wasn't it wasn't ransomware. It was encrypt your crap and your host, where you couldn't pay to get it back. Where apparently Bad Ransom, in theory, you can pay and get your stuff back. But everybody should just patch your stuff and back up, and you wouldn't have to, if you get hit by this, then you just restore from a backup, or use something with ZFS and just restore from a snapshot.
There you go. That's the excellent way to do it. By the way, we had gotten some. I had gotten some feedback or an email from somebody about a month and a half ago. I forwarded it to you guys, but I think it kind of got lost in the process. It came from someone named Linda, who was interested in, or had listened to our one of our previous podcasts about network security tools by insecure.org. I think I want to say it was, I'm not sure which podcast episode it was, but anyway, she thought it would be a good thing to add information about VPN technology. But Tom, I think you did a little bit about that, didn't you? Want to?
Yeah, I want to say we mentioned it, but we didn't go in depth on it.
Yeah, she said because VPN providers vary hugely by factors such as speed and how they treat their customers' data. We thought we should put together a comprehensive review to hopefully help people. So they said there's a website called thebestvpn.com.
Oh, neat.
And so she says, let me know your thoughts on the review and whether you might find it a pertinent addition. Either way, keep up the good work with your website. So at first I thought it was spam because I thought, okay, people usually don't say website, they usually say podcast.
Well, but directly to that talk, Pure VPN assisted the FBI in an investigation of revealing its users' data to catch someone who was cyber stalker. So this is also a concern. All you're doing is passing the trust down a little bit. So Pure VPN, they assisted the FBI and turned someone in.
So, and they turned them in for doing what?
They were being a stalker, and they were using Pure VPN to hide their tracks. So the FBI contacted Pure VPN, and then Pure VPN turned over the data to the FBI.
On that person.
Yeah.
See, that becomes a very interesting topic.
Yes.
Because if you have a loved one who's being stalked, but you're a privacy wonk who,
right.
How do you come down on that? It's it's way too complex for this show, because we've been already we're already hitting our max, but
right. But it's interesting, and I can throw that in the show notes too.
Maybe we can talk about it in an upcoming episode.
We could probably do a whole privacy security fresh looks episode. That's what we'll table this.
Don't point at me when you say that.
Oh, no, it's
you guys will do it. I will contribute though.
No problem.
All right.
I'll just do my little reviews.
Okay. And the last thing I have is scary Linux commands for Halloween. Ooh. Things like crypt.
Or
crypt.
RM-RF.
Yeah. So crypt, is if you want to create a encrypted volume.
So you just do crypt and then you identify the partition or the name of the.
I use DM crypt.
Yeah, well, crypt uses mcrypt and mycrypt.
Okay.
All right.
So I use Lux.
Right.
All right. So
wait, does this do the volume or does this do encrypt individual?
Okay, we're
It's a crypt is not an underground vault or virtual pit for trashed files.
See, Tony was expecting just to list these commands, but
it's a command that encrypts file content.
Sounds scary.
It's individual files.
Okay, it sounds scary.
There's kill, so you can stop processes.
I use it often.
Shred. I've used shred a lot.
Yep.
Zombies. Although zombies isn't
it's more process
command. Yeah, it's a zombie process.
Shred is what we use on our box that Phil did on the GitHub. That's the shred project that uses the shred command. It's a shred
high shredder.
Yep.
There's at midnight, which
at midnight.
Have you used that before? It's
I've never heard of it.
It is sometimes said that on Halloween, the spirits of the dead wander from sunset until midnight. But Linux makes it possible to track their departure with the at midnight command used to schedule jobs that will be run next time. Specifies at. Oh, and then you can say at is the command, and then midnight would be
Yeah.
the time.
Oddly, that works on Windows too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you can use the at command. I always thought that was weird. It's been there since like Windows NT.
All right.
right. And then demons or daemon. I
Yeah.
always call it daemon, but I've heard other people call them demons.
I've always called it demon because I think it's a better name. I feel as though I'm pronouncing it wrong on
I
purpose.
have a hard time talking to Christians and talking about the Linux daemons. I say daemons because I'm
Oh, yeah.
afraid that
Depends if you're mixed company or
people,
not.
if I'm in mixed company, they might think it's a kind of devil
Right.
OS.
Hey,
Oh, there used to be a Linux devil
my
OS.
daemon
didn't
went
there?
zombie and I had to kill -9 it, and people like, whoa,
Oh my gosh.
oh no, I'm a
I'm
programmer.
calling the
it's
police.
okay.
All right. So what else, Tony? Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Good. That was kind of cute. All right. I
Actually,
guess.
It's kind of good because our recorder is getting low on,
All right.
on
Time to
battery
wrap up.
life here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, time to wrap up.
And some people may be arriving at work at this particular point too. They commute. So good time to end it.
All right.
Okay.
So a little bit of music. We're going to make it random or a secret for Halloween. I'm not going to tell you what it is, and we'll just play it
All right.
because I haven't found it yet.
Just let Tom know to put it in the
It'll
show
be
notes.
Halloween. Yeah, it'll be Halloween related.
Okay. Good.
All right. Yeah. So I guess we've come to the end of the show.
We all look shocked. Oh, we have
It's the end.
stream of consciousness.
Yeah. Actually, this one's only been about an hour and 10 minutes.
Not bad.
So,
Good. That's
Yeah.
It
That's
just
good.
felt a little longer.
Right. So you have been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. This has been episode 255.
the Reaper cometh.
Yeah. Or broadcasting as the Reaper. I don't know
Oh.
which. We could use them both. I don't know.
I'll title broadcasting as a Reaper.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause
'Cause it's at
255 is the
255.
broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
This is Mary Tomich.
Tony Bemis.
And Tom Lawrence.
See you next time.
You've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you would like more information about this or other shows, go to smlr.us. Feel free to send comments to show@smlr.us or give us a call at 734-258-7009. I'm John Miller. If you don't like it, you can
Bite my 8-bit metal ass. That's bite with a Y.
We're going to take a quick break and then come right back for our second show.
Rubber rooms and taking fun pills, filling up on notes and dollar bills. It's the price you pay for feeling okay. You're the strangest girl I've ever met, sending weird signals to my head. I'm thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. 'Cause baby, it's all I do. I'm thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. 'Cause baby, it's all I do. Spending more and more time up in bed, thinking about the things I think you said. It's been on my mind, and it's hard to find. Bad habits come and go. I'm afraid my mind is getting slow. I'm thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. Baby, it's all I do. I'm thinking about fixing my brain, but I'm afraid I won't feel the same. Baby, it's all I do. I swear it's not so hard to understand. I just want to get in the sun again. The sun again. The sun again. The sun again. I swear it's not so hard to understand. I just want to get in the sun again. The sun again. The sun again. The sun again. I was laying on the floor when you were gone, like you were something I could die from. Now my head aches and your friends all think I'm dumb. You said it's just a bit of bad blood. I don't feel great, but it doesn't bother me, because I don't have the energy, and the x-ray doesn't tell me anything. Show me what the hell you see in me. All my time has turned to days that I will waste till my dying day, and all my bones have realigned, and now I guess it was a bad sign. I was praying to the Lord for some fun, but I guess he didn't have some. I'm betraying everything that I've become, just to prove it wasn't true love. If I'm too late, will you come and hurry me, like a kid among the dying leaves? If my heart breaks, will you drug and carry me, where we can talk about our chemistry? All my time has turned to days that I will waste till my dying day, and all my bones have realigned, and now I guess it was a bad sign, and now I guess it was a bad sign. time has turned to days that I will waste till my dying day. And when I tried, I was ashamed and said I don't believe in saving face. And all my clothes are still inside and broken up in little piles. And all my bones have realigned. And now I guess it was a bad sign. And now I guess it was a bad sign. And now I guess it was a bad sign. Here we go. One step at a time, don't be living on the line. I don't need a friend, I got more than on the mind. Sunshine in my brain, making everyone complain. Radio in the heart, don't be being so strange. Think I'm losing it, baby, where have you been? Everybody says that you're moving again. I don't wanna be right, baby, every single night. And I can tell you a thing about taking your time. It's making me nervous, yeah. One step at a time, don't be living on the line. I don't need a friend, I got more than on the mind. Sunshine in my brain.
56 is the get.
Let's just not give it a number.
Yeah, just skip the number part.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Fresh
Fresh
looks,
looks.
Arch,
Arch Labs.
Arch
Yeah.
Labs.
Arch Labs.
I was the Arch Labs, but it was
Right.
not.
All right. So if you're watching us on YouTube, let's see.
We feel sorry
we
for
have
you.
3 viewers now. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Yeah, so we are just coming back from our break between shows. Mary's going to do a review here in a second.
Mhm.
And
That's right. Arch Labs Linux.
Yeah.
Say that fast 10 times.
Arch Labs. I can't say it fast once.
Oh, we just picked up a 4th viewer. Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we're
Hey, I think you have to play some music to get started, Tony.
okay. Oh, you guys can't hear the music, can you? I'm playing music. Yeah, let's
No,
stop
no.
that. But all right, you're talking about our intro.
Mhm.
All right, let's see.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the Beaver.
And this is episode some number. We're not sure what the number is going to be.
That's right. It's a Fresh Looks episode. That we're sure of.
That's right.
I'm Mary Tomich.
Tony Bemis.
And Tom Lawrence.
Yep. In this Fresh Looks episode, I'm going to be taking a look at Arch Labs Linux. As I said to the guys a little bit ago, let's say that fast 10 times. What caught my eye about Arch Labs Linux, which I'm from here on out, I'm going to probably just call Arch Labs
All right.
or AL maybe. Al. That's what I'll
Al.
call it.
Yeah.
Al. It's actually an Arch based, and I know you're shocked to find that out. It's an Arch based distro that was heavily influenced and inspired by the look and feel of Bunsen Labs. A few years ago, longtime listeners of the show. First of all, we appreciate that you're longtime listeners of the show, but you may remember that I did a review of Bunsen Labs Linux a couple years ago, and I recall liking it. It was kind of a minimalist, and but Bunsen Labs was based on Debian, and of course, as I just mentioned, Arch Al is based on Arch.
You know,
So
that review was almost 2 years ago.
you're
It was
kidding?
November 15th
Wow.
Wow!
of 2015.
Wow,
Yeah.
Tony, I'm impressed. Thank you very much for letting me know that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a rolling distro because Arch is, so they decided to do it that way, and so they just released the latest update to it back, I think, last week, and so that's what caught my eye and prompted my review. So let's take an in-depth look at it. First of all, the name is Arch Labs Linux Minimo. And that cracked me up. Minimo, I like the name. The maintainer, it's actually a group of 5 guys, but I don't think it's the same 5 guys that have the burger franchise.
Yeah.
It's five other guys.
5 other guys.
That's right. The distro's latest birthday was on October 24th, 2017, when Minimo was released. I promise to stop laughing at that very quickly. So it's, as I said earlier, it's derived from Arch. The kernel that's used, it's a long-term support version. So what they've done is they've used the kernel 4.9.56-1, and the review desktop is open box for the most part, but during install, you have the ability to install several other options. For example, i3 Awesome. You remember Awesome? I did that as part of the Avian review, which I love that one.
Oh yeah.
And then you can also put XFCE as a more full-figured desktop, if that's your preference. Let's take a look at some of the defaults that we've got here in Minimo. We've got Firefox as the browser. Again, it's a very minimalist install, and I'm going to go into some detail about that. But out of the box, in the live environment, Firefox is available. There is no Office suite in the live environment, but again, there's options. They got options.
Hey.
And there's no mail client in the live environment, but again, options. And then the file manager is Thunar, which of course is from the XFCE project. And then they actually, it's a terminal. The default terminal they use is something called Termite. Are you guys familiar with Termite?
No, I don't remember.
I wasn't either, but I kind of liked it. It seemed pretty straightforward. Definitely, you can do your command line activities in it quite efficiently. So when I booted Arch Labs, it opened with a grub menu that included running it live or running the current OS, which of course is meant whatever was installed on my hard drive. There did not appear to be a way to install it directly from the grub menu, so I went ahead and booted up the live environment. And Arch Labs smoothly booted to present a clean desktop with the Arch Labs logo prominently displayed in the middle of it. The live version uses OpenBox as its window manager, but as I mentioned earlier, you'll have options to install something else if that's your preference. Anyone who's not familiar with OpenBox will not know that it's a minimalist dream with configurable settings via comp files or XML files. It's very configurable, kind of minimalist. So somebody who loves KDE might not like this as much. They might prefer something a little more robust. But if you just want to get something installed on your system to get work done and have it just give you what you need, I found it to be quite nice. The application menu is accessed by clicking with your subordinate button on your mouse. For all you, that's right. I'm calling it the subordinate. That's for all you right-handed people out there, 90% of the population. That's right clicking, but I call it the subordinate button because it's not your dominant button. No. I'm left-handed, so I make no apologies for that.
That makes sense because
then it's, for me, it's not right click. It's a left click.
Oh.
So I just call it the subordinate button. So the dominant button and the subordinate button.
I'll start calling it that.
Let's start a trend, you guys.
I'm going to attribute it to you. And
that's right. But anyway, so the full menu, once you do click the subordinate button, a full menu is available, including the option to install Arch Labs. So of course, I went ahead and took advantage of that. There's also an option to exit. They say exit OpenBox. So I'm thinking to myself that, okay, you'll just exit it and you'll have a login screen. But no, actually what it does is opens up a whole list of options, including turning off the machine, rebooting, logging out, if that's what you want to do. So there's a little more behind that option. It's kind of your typical kinds of things that you expect to see. Now, while reviewing the project blog, there was a reference to a wireless problem. Because, every once in a while I have a little problem. But Tony, since I got rid of that, recycled that old my Bemis testing laptop, as they used to call it, with the Broadcom chip, I'm expecting that those kinds of things will be far less frequent.
All right.
Because I think that Dell one doesn't have a Broadcom chip in it. I don't think.
I can't remember. It can go either way.
So,
Whatever.
but anyway,
Dell
yeah.
felt
There,
like at the
so,
time.
but according to the post, the late October release, which is I think is the one that I was looking at, was supposed to contain a fix, but it wasn't clear whether. But it wasn't clear though whether the aforementioned release would solve what I later found out was a little wireless problem I had. But for the rest of the review, I just ended up plugging in a network cable just to kind of get through it, because without it, then I was not able to do several different configuration steps post-install. But we'll get into those in a couple minutes. One thing I liked about the install process was how organized it was. Again, it uses the Calamares approach where, and if you think about how Ubuntu works, you've got the list of things, the steps you're going to go through on the left, and then the bulk of the window is taken up with the current step that you're on. And there might be passwords to set up, there might be questions to answer about locale and those kinds of things. So it's organized like that. I like that. I like organization because it keeps me from bouncing around too much, because I tend to do that.
I wonder how they got the name calamari. So like tentacles out into a bunch of
Yeah,
different
that's
places?
kind of what it is. You got kind of a central body, and then you have all these tentacles or sections of the installer, as I like to think of them. But that's a good point, Tony. I mean, I knew that calamari is octopus, I think, in Spanish or
Squid.
something. Squid? Oh, it's squid.
Squid.
Oh gosh, I learned something.
And it's
All
making
right.
me hungry. I actually like eating
Yeah.
it. So.
You guys are welcome to have my portion.
I like the stuff that's fried.
Yeah.
Yeah, calamari.
Mm.
Okay. All right, I'm getting hungry. All right, we'll move on though, because I'm doing a review, not reviewing a
All
menu. And now, as I noted earlier, the wireless connection was not active at this point, because what happens is when it's not active, you kind of get this flashing red slash through the wireless. So it'd come on, come off. But after the locale selections, I did get a cautionary message. This is before I plugged in the network cable, saying that some recommended packages might be affected by this. And as it turned out, a whole bunch of post-install configuration was impacted, because I installed it twice, once without it and once with it, just to see how it was going to change. So, and again, we'll get into that in a little bit. So after the locale selection, I was at the partitioning stage. And of course, I always like to dig in and see how partitioning is handled. And so I opted to manually partition the drive just to clean up some residual cruft from earlier installs. For example, I had some little 1 megabyte spaces between partitions. I didn't set it up that way, but some partition schemes will do that, apparently. I don't know where it happened. But anyway, the Arch Labs partitioner is set up the way I would expect. Not a lot of frills, just the necessary questions a power user like me needs to answer.
Right.
I really liked it. It's really, for a minimalist install, I think it's a model, in my opinion. And I suspect that it's probably based on Arch. So it's just excellent.
Yeah.
The create partition function is efficient with all necessary actions tasks on one screen, even flag settings, unlike gparted, for example, which sets this function up in a separate window. Because you remember, if you're using gparted, and maybe I've got an older version, but you have to go into you got to go up to the menu and hit your flag management. Little window opens up, and then you can check how you want that.
Right click and do it, but it's also a second menu in that too.
Okay. So, but in the Arch Labs install, it was all just set up in one screen. How, what you wanted, whether you wanted to format, what file system you wanted, what mount point you wanted, and then your flag management was all there. So I really liked it. Again, it's just excellent. So as I say here, it was a pleasure to set up my 3 partitions: root, home, and swap.
Hey.
And the user setup screen was well done also. And I easily set up my user account and provided a root login. Now, I noted here too, I said, while evaluating Arch Labs, I never had an occasion to use the root password. So for software updates, installs, and those kinds of things, I was always prompted for it was kind of a pseudo situation where I was just prompted for my user password in order to accomplish those. So I'm sure there are probably some system level things that would require admin access. I just never encountered them during the course of my review of Arch Labs. I also had an option to select a default shell. So what's interesting about Arch Labs is there are 2. You can use Bash, of course, which nearly everybody uses, but you could also select ZSH, which I also liked and I used for a while. But unlike, of course, something like one of the BSDs, when you install that, you can select up to, I don't know, 5 or 6.
So PowerShell wasn't an option?
No, I did not see PowerShell
Okay.
in there. Oh, that's funny. That would be kind of funny. I think I mentioned a few episodes ago, I did install it and play around with it a little bit. It's kind of fun. Let's see here. The next screen aggregated all of the install decisions where I could review and make any changes via the back button if I wanted to. So that's kind of nice because you can get a chance to review everything in one spot.
I do like the summaries like that. So I can kind of review in one
yeah.
spot, like this is what it's going to do.
Yep.
All right, I'll click that next button.
Yeah, yeah. And they also, they have a judicious use of color. For the most part, it was sort of a black and white kind of gray thing, but they had, for example, the partitions very, they popped off the screen really because it was kind of a bright yellow or orange. It was very bright. So you could really take a look and say, hey, here's how my drive's going to be set up. So it was time to apply the decisions. The actual install was fairly quick, but the DVD did not eject during the post-install reboot. I kind of hate that when that happens. So one time I hit F12 to go into the single, when Dell boots, you go into F12 and you can just select boot from the hard drive. Yeah. But also, if you do leave the DVD in there, there is an option just when you get to grub, you can just down arrow a couple times and then just boot from the hard drive. So I opted that way too. So all was not lost. So it was just a minor annoyance. So let's take a look at the installed environment. So after the reboot, I was greeted with a grub menu in black and white. It couldn't get any simpler than that. When the boot process completed, a script-driven terminal window opened, welcoming me. And then it said, press any key to continue. Now, the first time I installed Arch Labs, nothing appeared after I did that, and that's because I wasn't connected to the internet. And the wireless wasn't working, and so I was just completely self-contained. And that's why I got that little warning in the early stages that said that some of the recommended packages might not be installed. And that proved to be the case. So when I did it the second time, oh, by the way, too, I also learned that window that's supposed to display the welcome script is called AL Hello. So Arch Labs Hello, or Al Hello.
Al, yeah.
Okay, so the script allows you to see, and what that script does is it allows you to extend your desktop. And when I say extend your desktop, I'm talking extend your desktop because here the choices presented were almost overwhelming. I mean, there were at least, I went back and counted. Yes, I did. There were at least 34 decisions to be made as far as what you wanted regarding browser, window manager, update system, mirror list, those kinds of things. So, and so you can, so I think the nice thing about that is it's kind of the best of both worlds. If you want to create just a minimalist system, you don't have to pick any, you can just decline most of this stuff. If you want to have a more robust system, then you are going to go ahead and maybe select a video editor, music, whatever music app you want to use, that type of thing. So I'm going to go through and I'm not going to read in excruciating detail every single option, but I am going to touch on a couple of them. As I mentioned earlier, Firefox is the default browser, but you can go ahead and install something else if you want. The choices are Chrome, Chromium, or Opera. So yeah, so and then you can, if you do select one of them, you are prompted to whether you want to uninstall Firefox. So I thought that's kind of interesting. I chose no on my occasions. Text editors, you've got a choice of I think at least 4, and they range from Atom, Sublime, Mousepad, but Genie is the default.
I really like Atom.
Do you?
Yeah, I've been using that for over a year.
I wasn't familiar with it, but anyway, so that's one of the choices in there. And then of course terminal emulators, they've got several choices for that, like Tilix, Terminator, Tilda, or you could also opt for the XFCE E4 terminal. Probably if you're using that desktop, you're going to plan on running on that desktop, you can do that. Music players, file managers, I like PC Man FM. I think that was the one I recall reviewing that as part of another distro a few years ago. I think you could have quadrants, four quadrants. I guess quadrant kind of implies 4, doesn't it? But anyway, your file manager could be set up where you'd have 4 of them on one screen. So you could really, I love dual pane file managers.
I always do dual pane also.
Yeah, I like that is a feature like it is necessary. I feel weird when I'm in Windows. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's actually a free, I'm going to say is it File Commander? I can't remember what it's called.
Midnight Commander.
Huh? Not Midnight
Oh.
Commander. No, this is a Windows-based one, but
Oh, okay.
but it is it's dual pane.
Total Commander.
That might be it.
That's what I use all the time in Windows.
Is it like a little round circle, and is it the icon is like a?
No, actually, the icon looks like a save floppy drive.
Oh, okay. But anyway, that's the one I use. I really I donated to their project because it was free and
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on through here. So yeah, you can let me go on and this now you've got a chance to install your Office suite. So you can do just the standard LibreOffice, AbiWord, or Calligra. I did note that they misspelled Calligra. I'm going to contact them and just give them a heads up on that so they can correct it. But I mean, very minor deal. Image editors, GIMP, Inkscape, you want, and others. Video editors, I mentioned, you can put Kdenlive on here too, Tom.
Oh.
So it's pretty interesting. Then when we get down to near the bottom, then you've got some yes or no things. Do you want Steam on here? Yes or no? Do you want to install Dropbox? Do you want to install, the system automatically detects that you've got an NVIDIA card in there.
Yeah.
And whether you want to install the NVIDIA drivers or just go with the Nouveau drivers. So you've got those options. And then some font packages if you want to do that. So, as I mentioned too, like the live environment, the Arch Labs desktop. So I made my selections and then moved on, but the Arch Labs desktop uses a multitude of shades of gray. It could have been 49, could have been 50, maybe even more, but nobody even got that joke.
49.
Yeah, 24,
Shades.
49
Yeah, I
shades of
get
gray.
I get it. I understand it.
That was a test to see if you guys were listening. That's what that was. All right. And you failed. You failed. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so there's a single, and by the way, too, I'm going to kind of describe the desktop. I mean, I went in this, keep in mind that you haven't even really had a chance to go in and take a look at the desktop yet, because as soon as you boot, this thing presents itself and you have to go through. That's why it's kind of overwhelming. And I don't know if there's a way to get back to it again. You can certainly go in and install these programs. I talk about how you update and install, but this presents itself on that initial boot. It doesn't come up again. Sometimes I've seen those where you can check a box and say, don't show this again, or something to that effect. That did not appear to be the case with Arch Labs Mini Mo. All right. Oh, by the way, too, you can install, this is something I didn't mention. I do want to make a quick mention of it. As far as the desktops you want to use, you can use i3 GApps, I believe it is. You can install XFCE. Did I mention that at all? I don't think I did. You can install the Awesome Window Manager. You can install also something called BSPWM, BSP Window Manager. I'm not familiar with it.
No.
But I just... I stuck with OpenBox. I was tempted with Awesome. And then you've got Docs. You can select Docs if you want. Planky, Cairo, all those.
Right. Okay.
So let's go ahead here. The one thing they do use by default, and this is something that's unique to Arch Labs, is something called Polybar. And so that's what came up when I booted in. Polybar, now this is a default panel in Minimo, but they have customized it for Arch Labs. And Arch Labs is configured to include 5 desktops. The little desktops, and I think when you do this kind of a standard install, you can have 4 typically, and I usually get rid of them because I only use one, unless I'm using KDE activities. But they've got 5 up there, and the panel shows a separate indicator for each with its own little icon, but it wasn't immediately clear to me why there are 5 up there like that. Although I did notice that each one, as I said, had its own icon. You could have icon. There was a documents desktop, a pictures desktop, file folder, globe, and then home. Maybe it was a way just to organize use. If you were going to be working with images, you could go to the image desktop. But when I cycled through them, I didn't see any change to anything on the screen at all. The icons and notifications in Arch Labs were grouped on the right, as is typical. Individual system status indicators like chip temp, memory use provided insight to the current condition. I was pretty surprised. It had 4 cores. You could see exactly individually what was going on. It was just right up there. It's not like you had to drop down to see it. It was there without doing anything. Oh, yeah. So I kind of like that. If you're interested in really watching your system and what it's doing, that's kind of a nice way. to
That is nice.
keep track of it. And then there's also a clock that was centered in the middle of the panel. Let's see here. And I already talked about the minimalist desktop and the fact that you access the menu, the open box menu using your subordinate button. I mentioned, when I first went in there was no internet or office category, and that's simply because I wasn't connected and never installed any of that. So you ultimately it's the user's choice on what they want to do. I decided though to go ahead and test. I went ahead as part of my review to install something, and I chose the first time I installed it, I chose LibreOffice. I wanted to install LibreOffice to see how it handled it, and then I also wanted to see how OpenBox and the menu handled the addition of that icon, the LibreOffice icon. But I was disappointed to see that it didn't automatically add it to the OpenBox menu. There's a menu editor called Kickshaw, and that's from the Arch user repository, the AUR. RRR.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that old joke?
Yeah.
But anyway, but the Arch user repository is really that contains a ton of different applications that have been contributed by Arch users. So it's really robust and has a lot of stuff. But what the Kicksaw menu editor does lets you customize the entries and how they're organized. There's a little bit of a learning curve associated with it because you just can't go in and throw something new in there and find the path to user bin, say LibreOffice, or whatever the pathway to that application is. It's a little more involved because you can set up pipe menus, you can set up just your standard menus, you can set up an item. I didn't take the time to go in and become an expert at Kickshaw, but I wanted to just go in and try to set something up. I was able to set up a menu entry to access and start LibreOffice. But as I said, it's not something that's completely intuitive out of the box. So, but typically users who are going to use this type of distro don't mind that kind of thing. You're either maybe already familiar with it from another distro, or you want to take the time to learn it. So that's kind of what was kind of.
I think your Arch users are someone who's a little bit more advanced in Linux. That's why they choose Arch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, Tom.
It's not the one I suggest that people start out with.
No, I would not recommend this for a new user at all. And I'm not. That's not casting any aspersions on this at all. But it's for people who want to just get some jobs done and want something simple.
Unless you really want to take a deep dive into Linux, start here.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot.
That's right. Yeah. So the next area I took a look at were system updates. Now, since Arch Labs is based on Arch Linux, it's no surprise that Pacman is the package manager. A script-based interface called Packli sits on top of Pacman. Now, Packli presents a concise yet robust collection of applications and system management actions that are grouped into 3 logical sections.
Could be PACLI.
Yeah, it is PAC.
Yeah, well, PA is, but CLI is command line interface.
Oh, well, see,
so
that's
probably
interesting.
play on that.
No, that's
So
an interesting point, though.
Because of the Pac-Man.
Pack
and
CLI.
then LI, yeah.
Okay, that could very well be.
Yeah.
Tony, thank you.
Well, thank you. I feel like I've contributed something.
You have. Pack CLI. That's probably what I'll call it then. Okay. Anyway, Pack CLI presents. Oh, I already read that part. Yeah, it's grouped into 3 sections. So the first section has your standard basic management tools for installing and updating software, Pacman and update management, and then you've also got. The next one then, I'm sorry, just for installing and updating the applications themselves. The middle section then is for updating and managing of Pacman and those types of things. And then the last one is has to do with, I think, repositories, Pacman management, R management, but they're grouped logically. For some reason, I don't think I'm reading this very logically. My notes got a little disjointed there, but I think you get the point. They're grouped in a way that is intuitive to a user, because to me, that's important.
Yeah.
Let's see. And by the way, too, Pacman updates. So if you've got packages that need to be updated, what's kind of nice about it, there's a little box that'll show up with a number next to it telling you how many, and then you've got a little package there. And then once those updates have been applied, then that changes to a little check mark next to the package. So it's very easy to see if you've got something that needs to be updated. Now, the install process, I found the install process, and by the way, I mentioned that I installed LibreOffice the first time around because I wanted to kind of walk through it. I found the install process to be somewhat convoluted, a little convoluted, not totally. I don't think it's a Pac-Man issue. I think it's an open box minimalist issue because the default, as I said, the default install, the first install I didn't really add much to it, but it's up to the user to add them. So what happens is when you go into that installer and you say, oh, okay, I want to install an application, you hit you key in 3 and then you hit enter, and then it'll pop up the list of all the available. So then by typing, you're able to narrow down the list. But if you're going to type something like LibreOffice in, unfortunately, all of the language packs are there. And so then you've got to kind of cycle through to try to find it. So that for me was a little bit convoluted. I think there are some user interface tools that can sit on top of this and make it a little easier for people. As I recall reading about this, but that's okay. I mean, I got through it. I got LibreOffice installed. And by the way, too, as part of this, there was 2 versions of LibreOffice. There was LibreOffice Fresh and LibreOffice Still. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. I had never heard of that, but what they are, I did some digging and found out that the Fresh is the stable version with the most recent features. So people who are interested in taking advantage of those more innovative features that are kind of new to LibreOffice can use the Fresh version. The Still version is the stable version that's gone more testing. I see it as kind of their version of the long-term LTS version of LibreOffice. So,
I think I've heard or seen in articles say like the Fresh version is available or something like that, but I didn't realize what the naming of the other one.
Yeah, I may have seen it too, and I never really thought about it. Now, once I got in here and saw it listed in the package manager, I went in and dug a little deeper and found out what it was.
All right.
So, anyway, but for the purposes, oh, by the way, too, for the purpose of this review, I went ahead and kind of got I took my comments about this. I mean, I said it was a little convoluted, but my additional comments about the installer have kind of split into 2 sections. One involving the actual install process and what happened, and then the second set, what happened after the install. And as I said earlier, I had really no problem installing it after I had located the program I wanted to install. Yeah, and I refer to the 50+ language packs in there. I mean, there were just so many. I just had to kind of fish through them. But after the install was completed, LibreOffice was not automatically listed in the menu. I think I mentioned that earlier, as you would typically expect to see. I had to manually edit the menu using the Kickshaw, that. And by the way, Kickshaw is a GTK-based menu editor, as I found out when I looked for it. It's automatically included. One thing about OpenBox, and I think a lot of these minimalist window managers, is that you can go in and grab XML files and alter them, update the configuration for whatever it is you're viewing or want to see on the screen, regarding whether it's menus or other types of features. So that's they really take advantage of that in the menu for OpenBox, because you can, as you go through the cascading menus, they've got the file right there if you want to alter it. So you can just click the file. It'll open up in the text editor of your choice, whatever you've chosen to install, and then you can go in there and make your adjustments. I did go in and open up the menu. It's an XML file. And of course, I'm familiar with XML files because you've got, just like HTML, you've got your open and close tags and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So people who are familiar with that should have no problem going in there and making changes to it if they want to. So let's see here. So by the way, too, I mentioned quite a few programs. They also have the GUFW firewall. So if you want to go in and do some tweaks, they show the generic setup and what they say should work for most users. So you can just keep it that way. But if you have some specific firewall changes you want to make, if you do some online gaming and you want to set something up to accommodate that, then you certainly have the ability to go in and specifically alter the firewall rules to accommodate that. So I've really appreciated that. Let's see here. I just want to take a couple things. They do have something called Catfish. I remember mentioning Catfish on another another distro review I did, but really what it is, as far as interesting programs, it's ability to do file search across your system. So you can opt to install that at the beginning or not install it. But of course, it's always going to be available in Pacman
Right.
through PacCLI.
I can see how they make it available, not by default, because that's something that's always running in the background, indexing, and
Yes.
takes up CPU. So being want to be minimalist, I can see why they don't want to run it all the time.
Exactly, Tony, because I remember in some of the earlier versions of KDE, I think it was Akanadi, I believe it was the indexing service, or Balu. They had several versions, and it was kind of a love-hate thing. Sometimes it would be incredibly useful if I was trying to find something across multiple gigs of data.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I did a good job of putting it in the right spot. But then I also had to deal with trying to find something, and then the indexer was still running, trying to catch up because it would kick off, and it was kind of a hassle. So, but anyway, so that's as far as other interesting programs in there. You can also, you ever heard of WeChat?
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I've.
Yeah, it's a chat. It's a chat program. It's WEE. At least that's how they spell it. CHAT. And then Pigeon. I thought it was kind of interesting. You can, if you want, you can go ahead and install Evolution in this distro. And Evolution has always struck me as being a very heavy. It's kind of a full.
It's a full suite.
It is
a full suite, which I, unless somebody really has some love for Evolution, I just wouldn't see it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't see it really being something.
That's something I like about KDE Plasma is it doesn't load all of that on there, and as I like the lighter because I don't use that, I just use web-based stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
WeChat is a CLI based chat program.
Okay.
So you can log into IRC channels and things like that.
So it's a WeChat program. I get it. Yeah. Yep, and I think I may have mentioned that Kdenlive, OpenShot, or Lightworks are also available if you want to go ahead and install those. So obviously the whatever KDE underpinnings from their libraries will also be included, which again that will take it from being the minimalist to adding a little bit more. But if you use Kdenlive and you like it, like somebody we know,
I love it.
That's right.
This show will be edited on Kdenlive. Full disclosure.
Okay. So anyway, so as far as Arch Labs, I think for people who like that kind of environment, I think this is a excellent distribution to use. It's not something I would use myself, but that's because I really like a lot of the things that KDE offers, and that those are just not things that are available on here. But if you're doing maybe system administration and you want to put in the i3 window manager on there, or the awesome window manager, knock yourself out because you can do it. It's available. So so I really appreciate this. Also, I went into their forum to take a look at there's a fair number of recent posts in there, and also the team, the 5 guys or however many guys that are part of this group, they tend to be fairly responsive as far as, or at least in the blog posts. And so they direct people to the forums for answers to certain questions. So I thought that was pretty good. So so my rating is, I used to do coffee ratings, didn't I? As I recall.
Yeah.
I get 4 cups. 4 cups.
4
I
cups.
think 4 out of 5. Yeah.
All
so
right.
I liked it.
That's
I liked
nice.
it once I step out of my little biases.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
and as I said, the install, I was very impressed with how the install went.
Yeah.
So,
Things have gotten so much better than my 90s days of loading floppy disks and trying to get the mouse to work with the X driver.
oh, you remember
Right.
in those files they'd span across disks? And I can remember where I worked, we'd send customers or clients, we'd send them stuff, and we'd have a stack of maybe 14 disks. I remember one time there was a job that there was something we were sending them. It had 14 those 3.5-inch disks. So it would say, okay, insert the next disk, and I'd insert it and take this other one out, and just a little process. But oh my goodness! And now look at what we've got.
Yeah.
So
All updates in the background on the fly over there, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's Arch Labs.
Nice.
Not bad.
Thank you, Mary.
Minimo.
Minimo.
You know
Mo
what?
Mini.
We should poll our audience that Yeah, we've been doing this. Mary and I, we've been doing this for like 5 years now.
Mhm.
I don't know if you realize that. And so
Yes,
maybe we
I
should
do.
get
I realize
together.
it every Sunday when I get up.
But we should get together with our audience and do like another beer outing or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if around the holidays they're probably going to start to get too busy. So maybe after the new year would be
Oh.
good.
Yeah.
Local, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Unless,
fly on in.
Flying in.
well, I would say, yeah, I don't know if there's somebody out there that wants us to have beers with them, pay for our airfare and hotel, and we'll come have beers with you.
We're not opposed to Microsoft's been buying us flights, and we're not opposed to other people either. Just throwing it out there.
Right.
Someone wants to fly us somewhere.
Yeah, obviously that's a joke, but yeah, okay. Well, yeah, we can have a local deal. We used to have those
Yeah.
release parties, KDE
we've
release
been to-
parties.
But we'd get Atwater. We went there a few times.
Yeah,
and-
that's changed.
has it?
Yeah, they've gone mainstream.
They have.
Oh,
Yeah, and for maybe listeners who don't go back that far, this local brewery here in Detroit, it's called Atwater because it's just right off the river, which is actually a strait, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
And what we liked about it is that their bar, it was just the big brew vats were right behind us as you sat at the bar,
mhm.
and so the guys they'd be wheeling the is it the mash or the wort, whatever that stuff is called.
The
That
wort,
once they're
yeah.
done with it, they'd wheel it. You'd see it just going right past you as they were brewing the beer, and then the beer was so fresh.
Yeah, it was really good.
So it probably
I
still
loved
is fresh. It's just that
They still have good beer.
They've got. I think they have food now.
They do.
So,
It's a new restaurant, up north of there,
Okay.
isn't it? I think they
Might
have a
be.
second. Yeah, it's more of a German restaurant, I think.
oh, okay.
if I remember
Well, there you
right.
go. We'll have to.
There's
go out
plenty
there.
of places to have beer and food here in Detroit. So if you
Mhm.
all would like to come to Detroit, I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah.
So all right.
And we're here. That's the best part.
According to some people, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So you've been listening to. Well, Tony, you say it in the studio, don't you?
Yeah, I do. All right. So you've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. This was a Fresh Looks episode.
That's right. Fresh Looks, Linux Lab, Minimo. This is Mary Tomich.
Tony Bemis.
And Tom Lawrence.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you would like more information about this or other shows, go to smlr.us. Feel free to send comments to show@smlr.us or give us a call at 734-258-7009. I'm John Miller. If you don't like it, you can
Bite my 8-bit metal ass. That's bite with a Y.
Goodbye, everybody on YouTube's. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.